Hello.
Hi, Tom.
So, I guess I just wanted to have a little chat because I've been hearing that you've been having these conversations with different sangha groups about the move or the project surrounding the move or not move. Um, I think I'd just like to hear what that's been like for you and sort of what the general sense has been.
Well, for me, I think it's been really important. It's felt really important. I think one of the things I was keen on, and some of the other trustees were keen on, was to try and get as close to the sangha as we could. In terms of, we'd had a number of days looking at vision and just talking about whether we stay here at Turner Street or whether we actually move, and some of the issues involved in that. And I think those meetings have been very good. But, only 30, 40, 50 people might come to a session like that. So you get a certain, section of the sangha, but you don't sort of get to hear from everybody. So I think, going to the groups felt important to just try and speak to as many people as possible. And those people who were, committed to their practice within this context. So order chapters, going for refuge groups, study groups. So, I think for me, the experience has felt important in terms of, trying to talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely felt like my opinion mattered, and I was listened to when you came to our study group.
Yeah.
Should have had a day about that.
Yeah.
So you touched a little bit on vision there, about sort of the meetings we've had earlier. Do you want to say a bit more about how the conversations of what the feedback's been about the vision? Is there enough vision? Is there a vision that the Sangha is really latching on to, do you feel like?
I mean, I think one of the things that's been apparent, and I didn't expect anything other than this, but there's wide-ranging sort of perspectives within the Sangha of what would be the best thing to do, or what the vision of what we're trying to do is. I think what's been clear is that for a lot of people, there is a need for a strong vision to get behind in terms of whatever we do moving into the future, whether we stay here or move to something new. There's a sense from quite a few people of like, well, if we know what we're moving to, then I'll probably be able to get behind it. And one of the problems that I think some people felt with the original decision to move from Turner Street that the trustees made at the end of last year, I think quite a few people fed back, well, you didn't tell us what we were moving to, and that's why we had to backtrack a bit, I think, and start to talk with the Sangha in more depth about the issues that we've got and possible sort of ways forward with those issues. So yeah, I think rather than I think there's lots of ideas around, retreat centre being talked about in some groups, by some people, sort of satellite groups and centres, as well as the city centre. Sort of presence, has been talked about. Some people have said, well, we don't need a building. The groups could go on without a building, or we could do things online, or, there's a whole range of different sort of thoughts and perspectives, which obviously as trustees doesn't give us an answer. It doesn't give us an answer to, that's something we will have to really focus on as trustees. It's like, well, what are the options that we're faced with, in terms of how could we stay here? How could we make that work, as a Sangha, or if we decide to move? from here, how could that work? You know, as a sangha, how do we make that work? Yeah, but I think the underlying thing is like, but whatever those options are, there is a need, you know, to be very clear about, well, why, you know, why are we doing, why are we deciding on that option, and how does it help us to grow and develop and deepen as a sangha?
Are there any particular trends that you see in terms of the vision? Are there a couple of different versions that people are latching onto?
That's a good question. I mean, I suppose the things that have been clear is like, I think for a lot of people, being in the city centre is really important. So I think it's important in terms, yeah, from lots of different perspectives. So, in terms of being in the centre of a transport hub, where you can get the bus or the train or the tram quite easily from where you live into the city, and then having your place of practice, in the city centre, for a lot of people, is really important. Another thing that came up was being in the city centre is really good for young people. It tends to be younger people who maybe live or work in the city or study in the city. So therefore, having a city centre presence is really important in terms of attracting younger people. And then, I think a couple of other things are, this idea of like, well, would local groupings work better? Would smaller situations help people to feel more involved, take more ownership, take more responsibility? So I think that's come up within a few of the conversations, a sort of desire to look at that as a potential option. The retreat centre idea has come up a few times, like how good it would be to have a retreat centre for Manchester or for the North. Disabled access, it's quite a strong issue for some people, like just how physically inaccessible the building is. That being quite a primary sort of issue to try and address. I think the other thing that's come up a lot is, I think there's a sense that we've got quite a vibrant sangha. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that you can get involved with here. There's probably more and more people who are helping out in various ways. So I think there was a sense from a lot of people of like, oh, the sangha's quite vibrant, but it can feel quite dispersed, or that there's this group or that group or this group, and a desire, I think, from a lot of people of like, well, where can we come together and meet each other? Practice together. I can remember one person saying that she'd met a lot of people she'd never met before on the Sangha retreat and really enjoyed that, but then had never seen a lot of those people again, because she comes at times when those people don't come to the centre. So that was quite a strong theme, I think, of how can we gather together much more? How do we sort of unify as a sangha much more?
I think there's definitely like a lot of opportunities for growth as well. I think definitely at times I felt like, oh, there's this problem that we have to fix. It's probably not the right way of going about it. This gives us a lot of opportunities for us to develop as a community.
I mean, again, I think like a broad range of people who are quite concerned about the situation and the potential of losing this building. I think that's a very real issue for some people. And I think also a sense of like, it's a decision is taking a long time, and sometimes I think a bit of a frustration with the speed of things. There's been some expression about a lack of, I don't know, trust in the trustees, lack of, are these conversations, are we just paying lip service to something, and actually we've decided what we want to do? And I can genuinely say I don't think we have, a decision yet. There's a range of views within the trustees. So there's that side of things, but I think also there is, definitely, I've heard a lot of, I just think of the last group that I spoke to, and it felt like we looked at some of the complexity of the issues that we're faced with and some of the difficulties in that. But then we got onto a particular issue, a particular sort of way of answering some of those issues, and it's like the energy in the room started to, really take off. So in this case, it was starting to talk about sort of local groups and small situations, and I think for some of the people in that group, it was like it just became this exciting idea. This could be really creative. And I suppose my sense it's woken something up in us. I think we've had having to face up to something and probably get a lot clearer about what why we do what we do, or what the sort of purpose of a Buddhist centre is.
I guess that also sort of touches on the area of sangha as practice. Like I can imagine this project is quite sort of well, for some people it can be very difficult. I imagine. I think it's definitely can bring stuff up. People have emotional attachment to this building, to the sangha. I think the sort of uncertainty that comes with this project is definitely sort of something that has affected me, and I know has affected other people. So I guess I'd just like to get a sense of how the sangha is sort of taking this. Is there a sort of spirit as in terms of sangha's practice around this project?
Yeah, I mean, if I take a particular issue, which I think is the sort of the history, the legacy of this building, this iconic Buddhist centre, and the sort of the myth of the building project that helped to create this centre for us. There's been people who have really talked about the importance of that, and the importance of honouring that in some way, the importance of sort of understanding the emotional connection that people have, and that that's an important thing to acknowledge and to understand. But also, I think a sense of that we can take our history with us, like it's part of a process. That if we move, that we've still got that history. We can take that. We can take whatever we've built up here into something new. And that obviously applies if we stay here as well. So that we can reinvigorate something we've got here. I don't know if that makes sense in terms of that as a practice of both. I think sort of being able to listen to the emotional attachment that people have to this place, and understand that, and have care and metta to for those people who have that attachment and are part of that legacy and that history, but that it's an ever-changing picture. A Buddhist centre isn't a static thing, because nothing in life is a static thing. So I think there's been a sense from some of the conversations about, on that sort of level.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely like a sense of beauty that comes with the the building and the rich history that it has.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering what role does beauty play for the sangha in a centre? Is that something that's important? To what extent is that important in running a Buddhist centre?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard different things, like, I've heard people say, as soon as they walk in the door, here they're sort of hit by the beauty of the building and how important that is. I can remember in our study group, quite a few people saying, well, religious buildings are important, they're special, and that this place feels special, and that's an aspect of its beauty, I think, or there's something beautiful in that specialness of a faith building. I've also heard people say, well, aesthetically, it's never really done it for me, and the sort of layout of the building doesn't work very well, and never feels like there's enough space. And I've also heard people say, well, the beauty is in the sangha. The beauty is in the atmosphere we create together, and that's about people, and that's where the real beauty lies. It's not in the bricks and mortar. So I've heard that whole range of responses to that sort of idea of aesthetics and beauty, that it can be in the building, but it can also be amongst us as sangha members.
You touched a little bit on sort of practical concerns with the current building. I think one thing I've heard a lot is sort of the fact that we're very much in layers and hierarchical. And some people want a bigger shrine room for festivals and stuff like that. I guess sort of, if we were to move, which I think is one of the options for sure, what sort of would we be looking for practically? What are our priorities in that? Or what does the sangha feel is most important?
I mean, maybe the most important thing that's come through from the conversations is a space where we can gather in large numbers. So I think that thing about having a shrine room that's big enough to hold a big sangha is important. There are things that have come up, like Bodywise would like to come with us, and would there be space for Bodywise practitioners? The issue around, well, we've got a community in this building which you're a member of, and it's quite an important aspect of the sangha. I think it sort of becomes a bit of a hub for people to sort of hang out together and gather together, and gives people a taste of community living. So if we moved from here, could we get a space that has a community attached to it, in the same way that we've got here? So I think those are some of the things that have come up from the conversations about the practicalities. Maybe the other thing is just the importance of a city centre base. Even if we try to develop local groups or small centres outside of the city centre, I think it's been pretty clear just how important being in the city is, from the conversations we've had.
Yeah, I guess that also says something about being a part of the Manchester community, sort of the wider, sort of outgoing community, especially sort of a space of quiet in the northern quarter. I think for me has been really important, and I think for a lot of people. So I think I'd just like to know, what role does that play for the sangha? Do they feel like there's maybe more we could do with engagement with the wider community? Are there concerns about how this project might decrease that somehow, or are there opportunities for growth in that with this project?
Again, real wide range, I think, of views. So definitely heard people say, well, we are an outreach to the people of Manchester, just by being here. We're reaching out to the people of Manchester, and we're communicating the Dharma, and just how important that is. Definitely, I can remember one person saying, like, the Dharma is really precious, and we're here and we communicate that to the wider, population of Manchester, and that's an outreach in itself. But yeah, definitely, some people in the sangha who would like us to be more socially engaged, and sort of, trying to help with issues around poverty or homelessness, or which obviously, I suppose I often feel like coming into the city, that's part of what you see, isn't it? You see, the level of homelessness in Manchester, or poverty or whatever. And a sense from some people in the sangha of like, could we do more as a sangha about engaging with those sort of issues? I think there's been some people who, have said, like, if we established ourselves more in local communities, then there might be more opportunity to get engaged with sort of community issues and have more of a community presence. I can remember one person saying something like, it's important not to hide away. Like, and the Buddha went out and sort of reached out to others. The Buddha walked around India and communicated the Dharma, and I was quite struck by this person saying, it's important not to hide away and to have a very visible presence.
I think that gives us a really sort of broad perspective on all the different views that the sangha has.
Well, I suppose I just really appreciate that people have engaged with us. I think it's given us the sort of the most in-depth snapshot we've had of the sangha for ages. So it's felt really useful, I think, to just see where the energy is for certain things. And it takes time to meet with all these groups. There's only a small number of us who, have got the time to sort of meet, from the trustees to meet with different groups. So it takes its time, and it requires some patience from us all, I think, to sort of just bear with that process. Because I know I've heard some people feeling a bit frustrated with the speed of things. So just want to, I don't know, appreciate people's patience as well.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of views to balance, but definitely I do see some general sort of trends, which I think gives us a way to go forward. I guess I'm wondering is what sort of is the next step for the trustees? How do you balance all of these different views and come up with something next?
Yeah, well, I think how we'll use this information is that we have a vision statement that the trustees developed a few years back, and we've revisited that to develop the vision behind the criteria that we would make a decision upon. And that vision is that we're here to communicate the Dharma. We're here to sort of develop a network of friendships, spiritual friendships, many other things. And part of what we're doing as trustees is sort of developing that criteria, that vision, you know, and seeing how that aspects of that are reflected in the conversations we've been having with Sangha members. So trying to, you know, sort of see how it's reflected in where people are at, you know, what people are saying they could engage with. So I think that's part of what we're doing. The other main thing is that we're developing, you know, we're sort of getting together information around some options to stay and to go. So there's a lot of practical information we're gathering to, you know, sort of develop a very thorough sort of set of options, which then we will sort of agree as trustees, and then come back to Sangha groups to sort of discuss in more detail. Again, sort of just trying to get a sense of where, you know, of what people, where the energy is, I think, and what people, you know, think of these different options, to then sort of just help us to make a final decision, hopefully by the end of the year, but it may take a bit longer than that.
Yeah, so you say you're gathering various parts of information to sort of form different options.
Yeah, I think
you'll feed back to the Sangha and decide on one, hopefully by the end of the year. Yeah, I think that sounds like a really good pathway forward, and I've definitely appreciated the sense of care sort of in speaking to different groups and getting all these various opinions. You know, that's really really valuable to a lot of people. So, and thank you for this conversation. I think it's been really good to explore that with you together, and I hope that people sort of get a sense of what the Sangha feels about the project and how it is moving forward.
Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it.